Attention to the Creator's creation is more important than the nonsense you make up in your head. Unfortunately, people in the world, particularly this generation, has come to a place where there's not a moment of respite from their own thoughts and emotions and external inputs in the form of various media that we have. It's very important that you pay attention to Creator's creation, because that's where life is. That is where the basis of your life is. It's time you spend at least a little bit of time in a day paying attention to maybe to a leaf, maybe an ant, if you don't find an elephant, anything. Just pay enough attention and see how fantastic every dimension of creation is. But human beings are too invested in their own thought and emotion. Your own petty creation has become far more important than the Creator's creation. When you ignore such a spectacular creation and make up some rubbish in your head, well, inevitably you will suffer. You must understand, almost all of human suffering is made in your head. Why are we using our heads like this? We are supposed to be the most intelligent species on the planet, but look at us, how much misery we cause to ourselves and to every other life. Time to change it. 2020, which you which everybody's struggled with, is going away. The new year, at least, pay attention to the Creator's creation. Well, you will see magic and wonder and spectacular miracles everywhere. May you know the miracle of life, because your life, you must know the miracle of your life. If you're not paying attention to what I'm saying, would you know what I'm talking?
No way.
No. That's so with every aspect of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're not paying attention to it, you don't know what you're eating, you don't know what you're breathing, you don't know what's happening. Most people will not notice the fragrance of the flowers or anything, they're just walking through like rocks. Or let me say a bull, because they want to, a bull is worshipped in the stock market. So, it's a evolutionary fallback. If you walk like a bull or a bear, it's an evolutionary fallback. You evolved to be a human being, taking millions of years, now you don't want to fall back. To be human means, what is unique about a human being is, we do the same things what the other animals do. It is just that all that the animal can do, we do the same things, but we can do it consciously. That's a big difference. And doing anything consciously will not come if you don't have sufficient attention towards things that you do or things that you do not do. Especially things that you do not do, you must have absolute attention towards those, otherwise they'll creep into you. So this attention deficiency syndrome has happened because people's idea of education is information. Right now, the whole idea of human education system has become heaping you with information. The more information you heap upon on any mind, or let's say starting from childhood, the more he will develop aversion to attention. Because without knowing anything, information gives you a false feeling that you know everything. This has become a fashion now. There's a beautiful incident, you heard of Andrew Carnegie. When Andrew Carnegie started his enterprise, in a short span of time, he became so super successful and made so much money. At that time, okay, this is not the age of Google or Facebook or Twitter where in 2 years they become multi-billionaires and all. Those days, people had to set up manufacturing this and that and make money, which would take decades or generations. So this guy made so much money in a short span of time. people suspected, the US government suspected he's doing some malpractice. They set up a Senate investigation committee. So they questioned him in every way possible and they found nothing wrong with his business. Then they asked, how do you manage to make so much money and be so successful? So Andrew Carnegie said something very simple. See, I can keep my mind focused on something for 5 minutes at a stretch. 5 minutes. Can any of you do it? All the senators. They thought, what's the problem with 5 minutes? And he set up an experiment. They tried to keep their attention, they couldn't keep it for a few seconds. One moment here, one moment there, this is the fate of most human beings. So then he said, you should not be running United States. So, human ability, there's something called as chitta. There's a different… see, in English language, mind is mind. Largely you're considering the memory part of your mind as mind. In the yogic system, there are 4 main aspects of the mind. I'll not go into the detail, but the memory part of the mind is of least importance. It's the chitta, which is connected with the consciousness, which is most important. If you find a shape for your chitta, that shape will manifest always, because it's empowered by life-making material which for lack of words we're using the word consciousness, that which is the basis of life. Once your mind is yoked to that, then what shape your mind takes, mind is like a cloud, you can make it any shape. You can make it godlike, you can make it a devil out of it, you can make a pig out of it, you can make whatever out of it, you know? It's a nebulous thing. So what shape you give to your chitta, it will always manifest in the world because it's empowered by life-making energy behind it. So once it happened that we were driving to a wildlife sanctuary and I was on my motorcycle and this girl was driving this car with another 4 people. And none of those 4 people could drive and this girl got very sick and she got terrified because it's a wildlife sanctuary, she cannot drive. Then they don't know what to do. She says, I can't drive, I'm so too tired, I'm not feeling comfortable with all this forest, I cannot drive. And then I said, there was no other way, otherwise we have to wait and turn back. Then I said, okay, and I parked my motorcycle. I said, okay, I'll drive. I had never driven a car till that point. But right from my childhood, whether it's a bus or a car or whatever anybody is driving, I paid attention as to how it happens. I just sat down and drove 90 kilometers on a narrow track, narrow tarmac track to Nagarhole, which was a very narrow track at that time. I drove all the way and I parked the car there. Then I said, this is the first time I drove and never drove. And it's not as bad as I thought. I thought driving a car is for cripples. I thought motorcycle is a real thing, car is for crippled people. It's like for handicapped people who cannot balance on 2 wheels. I said, it's not so bad. And they said, what, you've never driven? I said, no, this is the first time I drove. How can you drive? Why can't I drive? I've seen people driving. Almost everything I've done is like this. I've never been to any training of any kind. It just takes a little attention. Every human being can do this, but they have a backlog in their head. They're carrying so many things of how it cannot happen.